a legend. It must have been a historical fact. He is saying so many things. Okay, so we start looking at the paragraph. In seeking the kernel of the thought of the Gita, remember he has told you already that we will not go into the philosophical aspect and we will not start siding with this philosophical aspect and that philosophical aspect. It is that the Gita is synthetic. It is synthetic in many ways. It synthesizes the yogic traditions and the Sankhya traditions. That is one, and the Vedantic tradition also. That is one way. And the other way is it synthesizes Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. In two ways it is synthetic, not only one. Philosophically as well as practically. So, in seeking the kernel of the thought of the Gita, we need therefore only concern ourselves with the spiritual significance of the human divine Krishna. Note the word human divine with a hyphen, and we have already defined ourselves as to ourselves the concept of the avatar. The avatar is a human body born until now in the biological way. There is no other way, in natural way. But the consciousness is divine. You have a body, but your consciousness is divine. Okay? So, this is the human divine Krishna of the Mahabharata, who is presented to us as the teacher of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Now he discusses the idea of Krishna, whether he was really a historical figure or not. And how can we have no doubt whether he was historical or not? He has experienced Sri Krishna in so many ways. He has experienced him in jail, he has experienced him in his own Sri Krishna descending into his body. So he can't doubt it. So, and he's giving.
But Ranganath, Sri Krishna may be a concept or a force or whatever. It can he may not be physically there. I mean, in that sense, if you say that he had experienced Krishna,
that is one of the possibilities. What you are saying, okay? But the question is whether it can have such a tremendous, profound effect on Sri Aurobindo. Probably we'll have to experience it to understand his logic. And not only that, he is giving you historical evidence also. He is telling you about Chandogya, he is telling you about the Upanishad, he is telling you about the Harivamsha. Okay? So he is giving you also a historical account. So we'll have a look at that. So what you're saying is one of the possibilities, no doubt. Okay? But the whole concept is, can't there be a difference between just a concept and a reality? You remember, all our mental thinkings are concepts, they are constructions. They are not realities, they can disappear. Remember that. This is a very important thing to remember, that all your thoughts are only constructions. Behind the construction, there may be some sort of reality, but a reality is very different from a concept. Okay? So,
but reality need not be physical.
Of course, that's it, exactly it. That's right. But even in the non-physical, there can be something less real and more real. Yeah. Even in the physical world, Pallu, we have more real and less real we have. Okay, think of the shadow. Okay, is the shadow real or unreal? The rainbow, it is so real to you. You go there, there is no rainbow. The three examples I love to give is the shadow, the rainbow, and the blue sky. You have to convince yourself that the sky is blue. You go there, there is no blue in the sky. It's a phenomenon of your senses. Okay. So that is very clear. The historical Krishna, no doubt, existed. So what Pallu said is right. Okay, theoretically. But when you experience reality, it's something totally different. Okay? The historical Krishna no doubt existed. We meet the name first in the Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad is very complex, okay, and it's one of the largest Upanishads. A very thick book. Okay? Chandogya as well as Brihadaranyaka. These are very big, very voluminous Upanishads, and a lot of interesting episodes and all that. where all we can gather about him is that he was well known in spiritual tradition as a knower of the Brahman. So well known indeed in his personality and the circumstances of his life that it was sufficient to refer to him by the name of his mother, Krishna, son of Devaki, for all to understand who was meant. While reading the sentence, I remembered suddenly, okay, it's very interesting. I'm doing a little bit of a digression, but it's very interesting if you see of it, think of it, okay. It also raises problems. Son of Devaki. Devaki, if you remember, was in prison with her husband when Krishna was born, okay. And it is actually Yashoda who brought up Krishna. Although she was not the biological mother, Yashoda was not the biological mother, okay. And it's very interesting name, Yashoda, Yasha, the one who confers splendor and beauty and fame on you. Okay. Now, I would like you to point out the very interesting phenomena of Krishna and Christ. Okay, and this really raises questions. How is there so much of tremendous similarity between the two? Okay, first of all, Krishna, Kra, and there also you have Christ. Okay, that's a first resemblance. Very interesting. It's not a coincidence. Secondly, the circumstances of their birth. That's highly interesting and symbolic. So it raises the question whether it was really a physical or see. Achha, what about Krishna? When is he born? He is born in a prison. Okay. Is that not symbolic? So clearly it is symbolic. Our soul is imprisoned in the body-mind life. Okay. And even when our soul takes a birth and enters into a body, it is entering into the lowest grades of darkness and ignorance. So that's a prison. Okay. So it is so clearly symbolic. And the symbol goes even further. When is it? When is he being born? At midnight, the darkest hour. And which is the darkest hour? The physical world with all its ignorance. Okay. Then another symbol also, remember, it is a storm is raging outside. It says midnight and a storm is raging outside. And the storm is what? All the difficulties of the physical world. So it is so symbolic. Very clearly a symbol. Okay. Then take Christ. Okay. So in Krishna's case, he is born in the darkest and the most, and in Christ, he is born in a manger. Manger is a trough. Okay, it may be in wood or it may be in stone, in which cattle are fed. Okay, so that's the humblest place where you can take birth. So that was so symbolic. Okay, so it is very interesting how the two coincide. So anyway, I told you it's a digression, but it's very interesting. So, for all to understand. Now I continue with the text, okay? So, in the same Upanishad, we find...
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Besides Christ being born in the manger, the
Yes.
other difference is that you had the Star of Bethlehem.
That's right.
Okay, so
Yes.
that indicates some light. Then you had the three Magi, which Mother also mentions,
Yeah.
who bring honey and gold. Yeah, so that also has its own significance,
Of
which
course.
was not there in Krishna.
Well, yeah, that's right. In a sense, there are small differences, of course, no? So one is a prison and one is a manger, but the similarities are striking, very striking. It's true. The three wise men of the East, they come bearing, as you said, the gifts. And that is symbolic of the divinity. They come from the East, they bring the Magi. They are the messengers from God and they give this divinity, potent and inherent divinity to Christ. So there is absolutely no problem in declaring Christ to be an avatar. Yeah, it's interesting. So, we're going to continue with to understand. In the same Upanishad, that is Chandogya, we find mention of King Dhritarashtra, son of Vichitravirya. And since tradition associated the two together so closely that they are both of them leading personages in the action of the Mahabharata, okay, we may fairly conclude. So Srila is not imposing this idea on you, but we may fairly conclude. But when Srila says that it can be more than a possibility, we may fairly conclude that they were actually contemporaries and that the epic is to a great extent dealing with historical figures, and in the war of Kurukshetra with a historical occurrence imprinted firmly on the race of the memory of the race. Because even today, Kurukshetra exists in Punjab. Okay, so very clearly, just like Ayodhya also exists. Okay, this is very mind-boggling actually. And Rama Setu also. Okay, there is physical evidence. Something of the connection, undersea connection between the southern part of India and Sri Lanka. Okay, so one really wonders how all these things are so interestingly connected. Tantalizing, makes you think. Okay, so we continue. We may fairly conclude. So somebody is saying there is more than a possibility that they were historical figures. Kurukshetra also. But the physical reality and historical reality is turned into a symbol. And that's why Srimdo says very clearly that Mahabharata and Ramayana are not only symbols, much more than that. Spiritual significance is there, historical evidence is there. We continue. And memory of the race, that's another interesting thing. The memory of the race is very interesting fact. It remains not in individual minds, but in the memory of the race. There is a collective consciousness of each nation. Okay, and it is there. All these things, just as in the individual also, your own past lives are recorded. In the collectivity also, things are recorded. Okay, so that's a memory of the race. Then I go on to the next. We know too that Krishna and Arjuna were the object of religious worship in the pre-Christian centuries. Okay? Pre-Christian. And he mentions later on about 500 years. Yeah, that's right. Centuries, that's right. So, and there is some reason to suppose that they were so, that means connected to contemporaries, they were so. This is Srinivas use of the word so. Okay, very often you will see that he uses the word so, meaning in this way, like this. That's what he means. So many children get surprised by the use of the word, because that's how it has to be read also. And there is some reason to suppose that they were so, like this, contemporaries, in connection with a religious and philosophical tradition from which the Gita may have gathered many of its elements and even the foundation of its synthesis of knowledge, devotion and works. In other words, Srila is saying, even before the Gita was written, historically there would have been more than likely all these teachings were there already, and Gita has sort of taken those things and put it into a very systematic manner. Synthesis of knowledge, devotion and works, this is the Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. And perhaps also that the human Krishna was the founder, restorer, or at the least one of the early teachers of this school. The school of this teaching of the Gita. Yeah. Okay, it's interesting because Krishna was definitely, and the other is, I think it was Yasmin who sent me that underground, under the sea, Dwarka, okay, it is still there. So the evidence is there that it was engulfed by the sea, okay, and beautiful structures and beautiful statues, all, okay. So, and we know
Rangada,
that.
I want to learn scuba diving only so that I can go to Dwarka.
Yeah, Dwarka, you have to learn scuba diving.
Yes, and that's why I want to learn it.
That's right. Okay, so we may fairly conclude.
There is someone in Pondi who teaches scuba diving.
Yeah, that's right. There is someone, there is a teacher. There he teach. Yeah. If you on YouTube, if you
An
type, yes,
ex-student.
pardon.
Yes,
The,
Ambi and Amrita are there. They do
yeah,
it.
yeah. And they
That
are
is,
both very, very good in scuba diving.
but
You
I think
know?
they are in the school also. I think.
Yeah, they are attached to that school.
Oh, I see. They are attached to that school only. I
Yes.
see. I see. Okay,
No,
okay.
no, they do it privately also. And they take you to various places, around Pondi where you can see, and they know what is available where for you to appreciate.
Yeah.
But the best scuba diving is in Maldives, where it is literally a paradise on earth.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
what?
when you put your head, I didn't do scuba diving, I did snorkeling, and that's the first time I did it in my life. And when I put my head in the water, and when I saw those fish, oh my God, I was only 4 feet deep, huh? And I didn't want to come out of that water. When you see that variety of different fish and how they come towards you and they suddenly split and go around you, it's amazing.
Yeah. There are many videos also of that, and the water is so clear there, no dirt at all.
It's crystal clear.
Still,
Even if you just stand on the gazebo and put some breadcrumbs, about 200 different types of fish will come to eat, and you can see all of them.
yeah. So, by the way, incidentally, I mean, I'm still, we are digressing, but both, I can tell you, Ambi and Amrita, both of them are extraordinary, I can tell you. Okay. Amrita was a fantastic student, and Ambi is one of the most practical fellows, extremely practical.
Also, Bharti does, no? Bharti.
I don't know. Which Bharati?
Not Bharti, sorry, Gita Dolia.
Gita Ben does.
Yeah, yes, Gita Dolia, yes. She also does, correct. Okay, let's
Yeah,
get.
but she won't teach everybody.
No, she's not a teacher. She just does it for her.
Yeah. Because my son was with her and they used to do snorkeling on the pier and go down and collect mussel and then get even the water to put
For
in
the
the
aquarium.
aquarium.
Aquarium, yes.
Sorry, Rangada, I digressed it too much into scuba. Sorry.
It's okay, no problem. We are having fun. Nah? All learning is fun. It shouldn't be something very stiff and formal. I have no problem at all.
And thanks Yasmin for saying Maldives is the best. I always thought Havelock Andamans was the best.
Andaman also is very good. Nah?
Yeah, but you will not find the same corals except on Neil Island, which is very beautiful because when it's low tide, the water recedes so much that you can literally walk on the seabed and see the sea anemone and things like that. And when the high tide comes, for more than half a kilometer, again the water comes in. So you have to go with a marine biologist to really study the seabed when the water recedes.
Right.
But nothing to beat Maldives. It's literally a paradise. But unfortunately, after 2050, Maldives cannot exist
May not.
because
Yeah, may
the
not.
water, even in our hotel, was just three feet below the. We were just 3 feet above the sea level, and any moment the whole thing will get washed away.
Just like Dwarka. Yeah, and that is the reason why all the Maldivians, they are investing all their money in India, so that when that disaster happens, they can come and live in India. Okay, they are doing that. Did you know that? They are all investing in India. Okay, let's get back to our Gita now. Okay, the Gita may well, Srimda doesn't supply commas, but we may supply a comma. the Gita may well, comma, in spite of its later form, comma, represent the outcome in Indian thought of the teaching of Krishna and the connection of that teaching with the historical Krishna, with Arjuna, and with the war of Kurukshetra. Maybe, and with the war of Kurukshetra, maybe something more than a dramatic fiction. So, he is giving you a clear hint that it could have very well been a historical fact. Okay? And it's very interesting that even both in Ramayana and in Mahabharata, all the places mentioned are all existing. Ayodhya and even Lanka. Okay, it's very interesting. So, in the Mahabharata, Krishna is represented both as the historical character and the avatar. His worship and avatarhood must therefore have been well established by the time, apparently from the 5th to the 1st centuries BC, when the old story and poem or epic tradition of the Bharatas, they took its present form. In other words, it could have existed in some form or other. It took its present form. That means even we know that the Mahabharata has been tampered with. We know that there are many insertions into it. Sridhar has spoken about that. He says that the quality of the poem, those insertions you can immediately make out by the quality of the poetry. So he is talking of two versions. The present form he is talking about. It's interesting. So, in fact, that is what's happening all the time. Whenever there is a teaching, all sorts of new ideas percolate into it, and then you have branches. Okay, like Christianity has so many branches. Okay, even the Jains have several Shvetambaras and Digambaras. So everywhere there is a division that occurs. So even in the Mahabharata, the present form may have been, some form may have existed earlier. There is a hint also in the poem of the story or legend of the avatar's early life in Vrindavan. Vrindavan also exists today, which, as developed by the Puranas into an intense and powerful spiritual symbol, has exercised so profound an influence on the religious mind of India. We have also in the Harivamsha an account of the life of Krishna, very evidently full of legends, okay, which perhaps form the basis of the Puranic accounts. So, for your information, Harivamsha is a Purana. The Vishnu Purana and the Brahma Purana and a Sanskrit work of 16,334 verses describing the lineage of Hari, that is Vishnu, full of symbolic stories and legends. It's a supplement to the Mahabharata. It describes the solar and lunar dynasties up to birth of Krishna. It also describes the Kali Yuga. I mention all these things to make you aware of the fact that the Sanskrit literature is unbelievably large, huge. See, even the Harivamsha is only 16,000. Imagine that, okay? So,
Rangada, it is not written by the same poet, no? Like Mahabharata. No.
Probably not, yeah. And the Puranas is, when you talk...
It is much later.
It is much later, but it's also, Puranas means historical.
Okay.
History, Purana is historical. So, this is, in fact, what has been published from Sanskrit literature is only a small, very small portion. Most of it is still unpublished, lying in palm leaf manuscripts all over India. Okay, that's one of the work that the French Institute is doing here. They go into all these, they buy them from homes which have been neglected, okay, for centuries they have been neglected, and much of it is unpublished, okay, huge literature. Okay, so this is what Sridhar is saying. Krishna could very well have been a historical figure, and Dhritarashtra and Krishna were contemporaries, and so even the Mahabharata may not have been only a legend, it could have been also a history.
Rangada, one question.
Yeah.
Like in Mahabharata, it is from Vrindavan, then Dwarka, and then Kurukshetra. In present day, it will take us a day to travel to all this, more than a day.
Acha.
So how do the poet describe this unless he has
Oh,
seen those?
what you are
Yes.
asking is a very interesting question, I tell you. Because when I was reading the Ramayana also, his Ramayana was written somewhere. Now,
Yes.
possible to imagine that this author, Valmiki, right?
Yes.
Valmiki is the one who wrote. Now,
Mm.
he is describing southern India, he is describing western India, he is
And Sri
describing
Lanka.
and Sri Lanka and Himalayas. Now,
Yes.
I was wondering how this Valmiki could have known all these things. Okay, so the answer to me seemed that when you are in the cosmic consciousness, you can see everything. You don't need to travel there. That it was a very striking thing for me. I said, "My God, how does he know all these things?"
So then it must be his figment of imagination, all the story? No.
Not imagination. When you are in the cosmic consciousness, you see realities, not imagination.
Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely a reality. How is Srivendo knowing that Silvio Crasionas is in prison in Romania? How does he know? It's not a fact, it's not a fiction. Okay.
Huh.
How does
Yes.
he know that John Kelly was in the Second World War? How does he know? It's not fiction.
Hmm.
It's a cosmic consciousness. Okay, so yeah, your point is very interesting. That one day it takes you for all these things, no?
More than a day.
Ah. They take you to Dwarka also?
Yeah, but not by flight. It's by train or road. So it takes us more than 5 hours from my place, Rajkot.
Acha. But Dwarka is under the sea. What do they show you?
No, on the edge they have built, but on the shore also they have another. The present Dwarka is there.
Acha. Okay, right. So, it is now 8:20. Shall we read the next para?
Rangada, I had a question.
Yes.
This Sanjaya, his ability to see what's happening, was that clairvoyance or cosmic consciousness?
I think, oh yes, it's true that there is a clairvoyance. But remember one thing. Sri Krishna gave him the Divya Drishti.
Drishti.
Ah,
Yes.
so it's a capacity that he didn't have, but it was sort of this was loaned to him by Krishna. So it would have been a very limited form of consciousness, cosmic consciousness, I suppose.
Because after the war, he didn't have that, no, anymore.
That's what I also feel. I have not read the Mahabharata in detail. I am reading the Ramayana now. It's fascinating.
After the war, even Arjuna could not lift Gandhi.
Yeah, so these are all very interesting symbols. So many details are there. It's fantastic.
Rangada, you remember there was this guy who was living across Sri Aurobindo and Mother's Fenêtre.
Yes.
That you can tell that, no, how Mother Sri Aurobindo would loan that faculty of poetry to him. No?
You are talking of exactly to whom you are talking about, I am not sure. But there was a Purushottam. There was a man Purushottam. Which one are you talking about, Gita?
I don't remember the name, but I remember
I think Ranganath. Rangada, Ranganath, I think. I
Chattopadhyay.
don't remember the title. I'm not getting.
Chattopadhyay. Hridaynath.
Ranganath Chattopadhyay.
Oh. Harendranath. Okay.
Harendranath Chattopadhyay. He's the actor also, no?
Yeah, he's an actor and he's a very interesting character. Okay?
He wrote that poem Shaper Shaped.
He comes from a very interesting family, okay, and his sister was Sarojini Naidu, okay, she was a poetess.
Yes, correct.
So the family had a trait of poetry in them, and Harin, Srimda has given very high praise. Okay,
Yes.
he says about Harin, he says he is to be called Harin here, okay, in
Harin, yes.
Harindranath Chattopadhyay. So Srimda says about him, he is the first authentic Indian voice in English poetry.
Oh.
And if you read his poems, really they are stunning. Okay. Very, very interesting. There is one in which he writes. I found it very fascinating, and so we brought it out in Mother India. Okay, we published it. In a poem, he's saying that I am in a sort of black mood. Okay, I don't want anything else. But he's putting it in such fantastic poetry. Okay, even that depression is putting it into poetry. And Amal tried to make another poem of his own on the same theme. And then he asked Srivendra to compare them. And Srivendra compared and said that yours is nothing compared to Harindranath's. And he showed that. See, it is so interesting. Okay. Even that he is in a darkness, but he says, I don't want anything else. It's very interesting thing. Anyway, so Harindranath was yes, but I don't know if he was loaned the capacity. That I don't know. Because that's what Gita mentioned.
He was P.B. Shelley in his past life.
Oh, that I don't know. I did
Yes. This was told to be me by Manoj Das, who passed away.
What was he in his past lives, you said?
Shelley.
You know,
Poet Shelley.
P. Shelley, that famous English poet.
Romantic poet.
I wonder from where he got that information, Manoj Das.
I don't know, but this is what Manoj Da had told me, and that's how I'm telling it to you.
Yeah.
And Manoj Da was not the type who would say something without knowing it to be true. But somehow I never discussed this. Oh, and even Amal was highly impressed by by Chattopadhyay.
Of course, that is.
And they were friends.
Oh yes, that I know. But I can mention one thing. Srivendra says about Shelley, he says that he was not an evolutionary being. He was not an evolutionary being. He was a typal being who came down into the physical world first, and he had the experience. His poetry is all psychic.
Yes. Even in Secret Splendor, Sri Aurobindo has said that the desire of the moth for the star, for the night,
Exactly.
that is from the psychic.
Yeah, even the poem Skylark and all. Okay, so it raises questions about this information about he being Shelley. I don't know. So anyway, we can go on to the next sentence. We have about 10 minutes, 9 minutes. So shall we read the next one? It is slightly less than a page. But all this.
Shall I read?
Yes, go ahead. But all this.
But all this, though of considerable historical importance, has none whatever for our present purpose. We are concerned only with the figure of the divine teacher as it is presented to us in the Gita, and with the power for which it there stands in the spiritual illumination of the human being. The Gita accepts the human avatarhood, for the Lord speaks of the repeated, the constant manifestation of divine in humanity, when He, the eternal unborn, assumes by His Maya, by the power of the infinite consciousness, to clothe itself, apparently in finite forms, the conditions of becoming which we call birth. But it is not this upon which stress is laid, but on the transcendent, the cosmic, and the internal divine. It is on the source of all things and the master of all, and on the Godhead secret in man. It is this internal divinity who is meant when the Gita speaks of the doer of violent asuric austerities troubling the God within, or of the sin of those who despise the divine lodged in the human body, or of the same Godhead destroying our ignorance by the blazing lamp of knowledge. It is then the eternal avatar, this God in man, the divine consciousness always present in the human being, who manifested in a visible form, speaks to the human soul in the Gita, illumines the meaning of life and the secret of divine action, and it gives it the light of the divine knowledge and guidance, an assuring and fortifying word of the master of existence in the hour when it comes face to face with the painful mystery of the world. This is what the Indian religious consciousness seeks to make near to itself in whatever form, whether in the symbolic human image it enshrines in its temples, or in the worship of its avatars, or in the devotion of the human guru through whom the voice of the one world teacher makes itself heard. Through these, it strives to awaken to that inner voice, unveil that form of the formless, and stand face to face with that manifest divine power, love, and knowledge.
So this paragraph is the divine Krishna. He is describing the divine Krishna. And the next paragraph, he describes the human Krishna. So that is it. When you are talking of the human Krishna, his behavior would be as though he is identified with his body, mind, life. As though. But the divine Krishna is the divine consciousness in the body, mind, life, which is fully conscious of its own divinity. And he is using three words. He is using transcendent, cosmic, and internal divine. We come back to that basic three ideas. The divine outside the universe, transcendent. The cosmic, who is there in the universe everywhere, and who is also there in each individual soul, the internal divine. And the corresponding Sanskrit words are Purushottama, Purusha Uttama. In the Gita, very clearly, the three levels are given to you. Kshara Purusha, the mutable Purusha, the Akshara Purusha, the second level in the cosmic consciousness, the Akshara Purusha, and finally the Purusha Uttama, Uttama Purusha. So the three levels are very clearly mentioned in the Gita. Kshara Purusha, your psychic being, which is mutable. It's a divine, but it is mutable. Okay, so it is growing, but the self does not grow. That's why it is Akshara Purusha. Akshara, immutable. That's the spiritual planes of consciousness, from the higher mind to the overmind. Then at the highest level, the Uttama Purusha, you reverse the words and make it Purushottam. So these are the three things that he is describing. This paragraph describes the divine Krishna. And the second paragraph is going to describe the human Krishna, which also is about a page. So we will stop here today because we only have 3 minutes or 4 minutes left. So we will not be able to finish it. So he's mentioning this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Now, we know that Krishna is from the overhead plane. He is not from the supramental.
Yeah.
Now, if you are talking in this para, but it is not this upon which the stress is laid, but on the transcendent,
That's
the
right.
cosmic and the internal divine.
Yes.
So, can Krishna be transcendent also without reaching the supermind?
Look, he is an avatar, right?
Yeah.
So if he is an avatar, necessarily he must have the divine consciousness in him. By the way, he is not limited to the overmind. He establishes the overmind consciousness, and Sriranda is establishing the supermind consciousness. So he is not limited to the overmind. He establishes the overmind consciousness, means the spiritual planes of consciousness are now become available to man. Just like Sriranda has done that to the supermind. So this you have to be very clear about. He says he established the Rama. Rama established what? The moral code. So he establishes the mind as the highest part of man when he is developing from the animal level. That's Rama. That's why he's an avatar. Although he is at the moral level, okay, he establishes the mind principle. Then Krishna establishes the overmind principle. He establishes it. It becomes available to all human beings. Then now Sriranda has come to the next one and he has established the supermind. Now that also has become available to human beings. We have to do a lot of work, but it is available now. So the establishment of the overmind consciousness is done by Krishna. So I would say that he was restricted to the... Okay? And also, the transcendent, also we must have a clear idea. When you have the experience of even in the higher mind, okay, when you feel yourself to be outside the universe and outside your body, you are in the transcendent consciousness. So the word transcendent, don't be too rigid in its interpretation. Okay? It means outside the universe, which you can experience even in the Mayavada theory, in the Buddhistic theory. When you make your mind silent, you are in the transcendent consciousness. Even at a higher mind level, you can have touches of the transcendent. You feel you are outside the universe. Keep that in mind. Okay.
And
When,
Rangada, if I may add that when an avatar comes for to enable the evolution, he has to establish that particular level or stair.
that's right.
So that's when I mean, as you said, that Krishna is not limited to overmind. He came to establish that consciousness so that
That's,
we can, like what the Kathopanishad says, ladder. We can climb ladder by
that's
ladder.
right. That's right. That's my understanding also. Because Sri says he established the overmind consciousness. Okay. So, shall we stop here today?
Yes, Rangada.
Okay.
Bonjour, Rangada. Merci.
Au revoir, everybody.
Merci
Thank
beaucoup.
you, Rangada.
We had a lovely time today.
Yeah.
दे दो वो जल जाएगा.
Done?
Thank you, Rangada.
Jasmine, au revoir, everybody. Au revoir, Sunki.